Hi, welcome to the tutorial. We are going to be briefly going over today how to complete a full invoice to the Mid-Missouri Solid Waste Management District, one that will not result in any further questions, one that will get approved, and one that satisfies all of the rules and features of the contract. So I'm going to share some information today. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to call or email MMSWMD at como.gov. All right. Make myself a little bit bigger over here so that we can enjoy connecting. All right. So on the left side here, I have an example of an FAA. So this is a made up project. We're just going to say that this group of people is working to do a resale shop. So they are going to have some volunteers. They're going to do some retrofitting. They are also going to need some supplies and equipment to get going. So this is from their approved financial assistance agreement. They have different line items here. Some of that is match, some of that is expenses that they want reimbursement for. So whenever you go to fill out your invoice, you want to be able to reference back to your FAA budget because we really need to be able to track where you are at on available funds from the budget. And maybe there are some items that you come in under budget on and you want to reach out to us and see if you can move that money around. Up to 10% movement within line items, we can approve at the staff level. Changes that are above that, we need to go to our board and do an amendment. But that's pretty easy to do, and it can really open up some additional options for you to expand your program or maybe get some more accomplished within the project time period. So let's go ahead and take a look at the invoice forms. We've updated it just a little bit in the last year, mostly because we found it was a little confusing and we just want to make it more simple and clear for those of you that are filling it out. We know you have a lot of other things going on and we just want to make sure that it's as easy as possible. So we've got some instructions for completion here. It says list expenses for which you are seeking reimbursement. This must match to a line item in your approved FAA. Now, this can be things that you're seeking reimbursement for expenses, and it is also where you track your match dollars. Sometimes we have grantees who, for every expense, have match that they put towards it. Others, like this grantee, are doing most of their match through volunteers or personnel. So let's go ahead and start with that volunteers here at the top. So we want to make sure that in row A here, everything corresponds to our FAA. So we're going to put volunteers. That matches to our FAA. Now, the instructions for number 2 say list who the expense was paid to. This could be an employee, vendor, or contractor. And A here says write volunteers X hours at X dollars for volunteer hours using the value of volunteer amount in your FAA. Make sure to attach volunteer hour tracking documentation with your invoice. We'll get to that in just a minute, but for now, we're going to say 50 hours. We'll say we've done half of the volunteer work has been done. The volunteers have been working hard, getting all the materials at the resale store ready to go. So 50 hours at $31.16. Done the math over here. That gets us to 1558. Oh, see, and I'm already messing up. Now we don't want to request funds for reimbursement because the volunteers weren't paid. That is all going under match. So we're going to list that in our fourth column, $1,558. All right. Now, so far, this grantee has been able to purchase some supplies, but hasn't quite done all the expenses yet. So I've got a receipt here from the Awesome Store. And at the Awesome Store, this grantee was able to purchase shelves and plastic totes. Instead of just writing this as one line item of shelves and totes, we're going to go back to our FAA and we notice that we have retail shelves as one line item and plastic totes as another line item. So we need to list those as separate line items here on our reimbursement invoice. So retail shelves. And we got those from the Awesome Store. And they came in exactly as we had budgeted. They are $5,600. You'll see that the totals here should auto-calculate for you, so you only have to worry about inputting your raw numbers. Now we also purchased the plastic totes. They were also from the Awesome store, and they came in a little under budget. So while we had 274 budgeted, we only spent 268, saved just a few dollars. Maybe we had a nice little coupon there. All right, and that's all we've been able to do so far for this project, but we want to go ahead and get it going, get that reimbursement back. So let's check and see what we've done so far. List the expenses for which you're seeking reimbursement. We've got our 3 line items here that we wanted to put on this invoice, so we're good. List who the expense was paid to. So we have put the vendor, Awesome Store here, and for the volunteers, we said 50 hours at $31.16. Now, if this is personnel, that's where you would want to write the name. So you may have program manager as the line item, and then under paid to, you would put Joe Smith. And your documentation would include, whatever payroll forms you can share that show that the employee has been paid that amount for whatever hours they've worked on the project. All right, and all expenses must be validated with proof of payment, receipts, canceled check, paid invoice document from a contractor. And it also says, if possible, label your proof of payment with the corresponding letter on the table. So I've got this receipt here, and it shows my shelves and plastic totes. Now we're really bootstrapping here in this grant project, and we don't have a scanner, and we don't really know where to go get one. That's okay. We don't have a problem with that. Simply, you can just tape your receipt to a piece of paper. I've added here documentation for items B and C. Now I can take my super fancy computer that I carry in my pocket and just take a nice picture, make sure it's nice and well lit. And that can be your attachment with your invoice when you send it into our office. So it doesn't have to be super fancy. We just need it to be clear that it's been paid and that it corresponds to what's in your budget. Let's see here. List the amount of the expense that is requested for reimbursement must not be more than what is in your approved FAA. So we have fully maxed out our retail shelves. We don't have any more space. We have done the 5,600. Now, if that had come back and the cost was more expensive, maybe it was 6,000, we can still only put 5,600 here on this line item because that's what's in the contract. Now, maybe we can have a discussion about an amendment. Maybe we can figure that out, but all purchases have to be made with an approved FAA for those expenses. So that's why it's really important to communicate with staff, make sure that we are assisting you to have a successful project and to get reimbursement for as much of those expenses as possible. All right, now list any match funds. We didn't spend any match funds on those 2 items, and I think we're good to go. So when I go to send this into the district as a grantee, I would send in this invoice form, make sure I print it out and sign it, or you are able to sign it here using the form. And then I would attach my volunteer tracking form that would list those 50 hours that have been done by our awesome volunteers. And I would also take this picture that I've done of my receipt, and I would send those 3 things: the invoice, the proof of the volunteer work, and the receipt for those purchases. I would send that in to Ramon or to myself. No, I wouldn't send it to myself, but you can send that to Ramon Garza or Elise Buckite, and we're able to process that with our board. Now, one more thing to note down here is that the total that the grantee is requesting is $5,868. The district has to retain 15%. So 880 of that will be held until the final report is given. But the rest, the $4,987, that is what the check will have on it. Always make sure that you put your correct legal entity name that you can be paid to up here at the top, as well as the most up-to-date mailing address for you to receive checks. And that's it. It's that simple. This is a little bit of a change, which can be hard to manage, but hopefully you'll find that it's a little bit more smooth and we have less interfacing that we need to do to make sure that all of those T's are crossed and I's are dotted. Thanks so much. We appreciate all of your efforts, and we look forward to seeing the success of your projects.